If you're the kind of person who wants answers, real answers, on stories that powerful people hope you all forget, you're in the right place. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, drop a comment with your thoughts, and give this video a like if you think this kind of reporting matters. This is News Decoded, and you're watching Dark Sides. The story around Jeffrey Epstein isn't going away. Not quietly, not quickly, and definitely not without dragging a few more people into the light. Right now, the pressure on Congress is growing, not just from one party but from both sides of the aisle. There is a bipartisan move underway in the House to demand the full release of every single Epstein file still held by federal agencies. And some of them are among the most vocal defenders of the president. The legislative process requires a 7-day waiting period after a bill is introduced. The 10 Republican co-sponsors have remained solid, even after the president's comments about grand jury documents. And Khanna is confident they'll gain more Republican allies before the vote is called. Speaker Mike Johnson seems to be aware of that clock ticking, and, interestingly, he might try to adjourn Congress early to avoid the vote. She pointed to other legislative issues, like funding for global health and anti-poverty programs, as more urgent. But Khanna pushed back hard. To him, this isn't a distraction at all. It's one of the most vital transparency efforts of our time. And if it does, the Epstein files could be cracked open for the first time in a way we haven't seen before. When you've got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, and Tim Burchett all backing transparency on Epstein, and just hours later, the president himself filed a sweeping libel lawsuit. The president is furious. He called the allegation absurd and told House leaders that he has never drawn anything like that in his life. But he insists that it's completely different, and that the so-called Epstein drawing simply doesn't exist. The targets? The Wall Street Journal, its parent company, and Rupert Murdoch personally. It challenges the claim that Trump and Epstein were ever friends, even though there are multiple photos and video clips of the two together before their relationship reportedly soured. Something unusual is happening. This is a rare political moment where anti-establishment energy from the left and the right are converging. That's billion with a B. He posted on his social platform saying he hopes Murdoch and his friends are ready for the depositions and legal grilling to come. He said the media thought they'd finally bring Trump down with the drawing story, but instead, Trump went on offense and turned the narrative around. One of them, Representative Thomas Massie, posted a blunt message that reflects the growing tension. Folks, keep the pressure up. In its court filing, the DOJ openly cited public pressure as the reason. The quote reads, "Given the public interest, the Department of Justice moves the court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts." Not just a newspaper, but its billionaire owner, Rupert Murdoch. This is the same Rupert Murdoch the president praised in the Oval Office not that long ago. Now the relationship has fully ruptured, subject to appropriate redaction of victim-related and other personal identifying information. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts in the comments. What happens next in this story may depend on how loud people like you are willing to be. On one side, you have a president using the courts to try to control the narrative around Epstein. On the other, you have a bipartisan group in Congress trying to tear the curtain down. And somewhere in the middle sits the Justice Department, walking a tightrope between legal caution and public demand. But now with this lawsuit and the grand jury moves, we're seeing some of those voices flip. Instead of attacking, they're defending him. They know the country wants answers, and they know stonewalling isn't going to fly much longer. Instead of demanding answers, they're blaming Murdoch and the media for trying to smear him. And critics argue that the real treasure trove of information lies not in court-sealed testimony, but in the DOJ's own files, emails, text messages, interview transcripts, all of which they have the authority to release without any court order at all. It's working, but we want all the files. The leading Democrat behind this push is California Congressman Khanna, who said that, while the administration is responding to public pressure, what's being offered isn't nearly enough, and that effort is gaining serious traction, and when that happens, everything from private communications to past associations could be fair game. If people believe the government is protecting billionaires and political insiders at the expense of justice, Khanna admits that Democrats didn't introduce this kind of legislation over the last 4 years, and part of the reason, ironically, is because Donald Trump himself raised the stakes. He said he'd release the Epstein files. He promised transparency. Now his failure to do so is being used as fuel to finally get it done. Faith in the entire system crumbles. This is about rooting out corruption that's gone unchecked for far too long. 10 Republican co-sponsors are already on board. Yes, it is true. The White House is preparing to release parts of the grand jury testimony that it legally can. But according to Khanna, that's not where the real secrets are buried. Those transcripts mostly cover Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. They don't get into the rich and powerful men, the politicians, business leaders, and celebrities who were allegedly involved in crimes or cover-ups. That's where the public interest truly lies. There's another angle that matters just as much. A significant portion of the material, texts, interview notes, internal communications, isn't protected by court orders. It could be released at the Justice Department's discretion, and so far they've chosen not to. Congress is responding. Khanna says there's a plan to force a vote in September, maybe even earlier. But when lawmakers return, Khanna says they'll be ready. All 212 Democrats are expected to support the bill. So yes, it's very possible that a forced vote will happen in the fall. But not everyone sees this as a priority. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi weighed in recently, calling the entire situation a distraction. He made 3 points. First, it's strategic. This legislation is dividing Trump's MAGA base, something almost no other issue has managed to do. Second, it's about public trust. And third, it's about timing. And yet, at the same time that Congress is pushing for transparency, the president himself is taking an extraordinary step in the opposite direction. Tonight, his Department of Justice is asking a judge for permission to release some of the Epstein-related information, but definitely not all of it. The lawsuit is over a report that claimed the president wrote a crude birthday message to Epstein over 2 decades ago, something that allegedly included a graphic drawing of a naked woman. Interestingly, though, there is a sketch he made of the New York City skyline back in 2005 that sold for $30,000 at auction in 2017. The lawsuit doesn't stop with the drawing. What makes this even more remarkable is that the president is asking for at least $10 billion in damages. Legal experts say this lawsuit could backfire. Why? Because if the case proceeds, the president himself would likely have to sit for a deposition. Despite the risk, this lawsuit may be serving a different kind of goal, rallying the base. Just a few weeks ago, prominent right-wing figures were hammering the president over his handling of the Epstein files. One influential podcaster called it a kill shot attempt gone wrong. This entire legal firestorm comes at a moment when the Department of Justice is also seeking to unseal parts of the grand jury materials in the Epstein case. Translation: the DOJ knows people are watching. Still, this step from the DOJ is limited. Redactions will be heavy, and let's not forget who the president is suing here. This moment marks a clear turning point. The real question is simple. How much longer can this be kept in the dark? Thanks for watching Dark Sides on NewsDecoded. If you're someone who thinks truth should come before politics, before wealth, before influence, then stay with us.